Good morning. I'm Corey, and today is day 6 of the 100-day project and my version of 6 by 6 in 6. And today's project is going to be, I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget, a double-sided library pocket flip. And I'm actually going to hopefully be able to create this or show you how to create it in 6 minutes. I'll probably talk longer because that's what I do. But the project itself we can do in the 6 minutes, I think. Supplies. You are going to need one sheet of 6 by 6 paper and then one scrap. And your scrap needs to be at least 4.5 inches long and at least 2 inches wide, but just use a scrap. You're going to need a scoreboard or the score tool that I showed you with the chipboard on day 1. You will need a paper trimmer. You're going to need a pair of scissors, possibly some washi if you want to do something extra, glue, and ink pad if you're wanting to ink. All right. The beauty of this particular project is it can go in any kind of planner, junk journal, scrapbook. It can make a great card. You can use it for a lot of different things. And the reason is you can adjust the size. The Disney paper is a 6 by 8 pad, so this one's a bit longer, but the concept is exactly the same. And you don't glue the bottom of this double-sided library pocket so that if you want a longer strip, if you want to use different cardstock or just a longer piece, you've got more room and more flexibility, more room to do journaling or pictures or whatever you want on the back. And it gives you the center pocket, a front pocket, and a back pocket. So you get 3 pockets with it, and it is pretty darn quick to make. So there's one of the samples, and we're going to use vintage paper today because this really works well with junk journals. And the reason I've got the hinge or flap here is, you certainly don't have to, you could cut that off, is you can easily put it on the back of a page or the side of a page. So if I were to use, say, a junk journal, this one's not a junk journal, but let's just say I was using this junk journal, I could put it over the side just like this and then glue or washi it down, and I've got a flip. If I wanted to put it on the inside of a page before I bound my signature, I could do the same thing and then it'll flip out this way. So it kind of gives you a little bit of flexibility with how you use it. And if you just wanted it as to be paper clipped in or as not as a flip, you could certainly just cut this section off and paper clip it in. So it gives you, I'm sorry, I should have turned that light off before. Okay, there you go. That's a lot better. Gives you a little bit of flexibility. Okay, step number 1 is to use your 6 by 6 paper. Now, a lot of these papers are directional, and this one uses double-sided paper, but it certainly doesn't have to because of the way this is constructed. You don't really see the inside here. So if you've got a single-sided paper, this is a great project for your single-sided paper. This is a sideways piece. This is kind of sideways. This is sideways. So what I do, rather than having my print go straight up and down, I will deliberately turn it sideways so that when my paper is folded over, it is intentionally sideways so I don't have something upside down. I like sideways a little better than upside down. So decide which way, when your project is done, you want your print to read, and then which print you want up. I want this to be the back side, so I'm going to score this way. Sorry, I'll try to make sure I'm in focus. I want this to be the back, so I'm going to score here. And you score halfway at 3 inches. Okay, and then, like I said, I am a left flipper, and I have to think. I want this to be up, so I am going to score so that, did I write that? No, I want this to be, that's it. I want this to be the inside because I want this little bit flipped up. So I have to make sure, because you can see over here, the writing will be up on the top. So I want this side. So when I put it in here to be scored for my second score, I want it to be here. And that measurement is going to be 4 1/4. So we scored it at 3, and then we're flipping it and we're scoring it at 4 1/4. because this pocket is going to be 1 3/4 inch pocket. And you can see this is going to be, the print is sideways, so it's not going to bother me while it's in the pocket. And this particular print is sideways, but this one, this little element, the print is going in the correct direction. So, all right, I know I'm good there. So I've got score and score, and then I fold. And then I am going to give it a good fold so that I can see where I'm going to be cutting. And I am going to make one cut just directly in the center of this bottom rectangle where I've got that score line. I'm going to cut up to the center line. And I don't really like these scissors, but that's okay. I can do it. I'm going to look in the front because I can see this score line a little bit better. You can see there. And I'm going to cut just up to here. And that's it. So I'm going to put the punch board aside. I'm going to use it to cut and score those little scrap pieces. But this is where we go. This is the essential basis of this. I like the way the pockets look when they've got a little bit of a divot in it. It kind of differentiates the pocket. You can certainly leave it straight if you like that. But I like the little divot, so I'm going to do that. And I generally start at one of the bottom pockets. You can start at the top. It doesn't really matter. And I mostly center it. And I want a little divot. Because these aren't big pockets, I don't want a huge divot. And I'm going to take out that little bit. Now, I look over at the next piece, and the next pocket piece that I'm going to take the divot out. So I've got the divot here, and I've got the divot here. I use my ruler, and I gauge about where I cut it, just about. And this one looks like it's just about 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to come over on this side and measure 3/4 of an inch, and I'm going to take that little divot piece that I cut out, and I am going to glue it right here on the top with the ruler touching at 3/4 of an inch, and it butting against the top of the paper. And I'm going to do that with an obvious pattern side out, and I'll show you why. I showed this tip the other day, but somebody said it wasn't very clear, so I am going to show you again. So this was 3/4 of an inch, so I hold it at 3/4 of an inch, and I put just a tiny little bit of glue on there, and I'm going to put that divot up at the top. Now again, because it's wet glue, I've got a little bit of wiggle room. If I put it down and moved it, I can scooch it over a bit, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but I want it to be kind of close. And I've got a template for where I want to make my next cut. And I do that same process on all 4 of the places that I'm going to divot. Again, you don't have to divot the top, but I like to. And I'm going to cut it out. And then I know my divots, they may not be identical, but they're pretty darn close. All right, I'm going to fold this over and do the same darn thing at the top. So let's see, I said it was 3/4 of an inch, and I will move my ruler in, 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to, I've got it folded over so I can punch both pieces at once. Sorry, I can get it both out at once. I'm going to put a little bit of glue. Am I in frame there so you can see what I'm doing? There we go. I'm going to put a little bit of glue and line it up. It's easier to lay it down to do this piece, but you certainly don't have to. So I've got both pieces this time. I'm going to get both to make sure that they line up. And I've got my divot glued so that I'm sure I'm going to get the right amount of depth and approximately the correct space. You know, next time what I think I would do is just do 2 cuts rather than 3. So I've got both of my pieces cut. I could have, and I should have, when I cut this the first time, I should have had it folded in half, and I could have cut both at once, because you can see it's off, which is fine because it's not going to show. They're on opposite sides of the pocket. But I could have saved myself that step of having to glue it. I could have only glued it once, right up here, rather than twice. So I even learn tips as I go along. So there you go. I've got my 4 divots cut. When my pocket's folded closed, they're going to line up nicely. And next step is ink. Next step is ink. If you're going to ink, now is a great time to ink. simply because once you glue those pockets down, it's not as simple to ink. And this is the outside. When I flip this up, this is what's going to show. The inside's not going to show at all, so I'm not going to ink that. Ink, and then I'm going to do the same thing at the top. Just a bit of ink. Okay, inking done. Now my next piece. You need 2 1-inch sections, and you are going to score them at a 1/2 inch. So again, this is just my little scrap piece. I'm going to cut 2 1-inch sections. Actually, what I'll do here, if you can see, I've got the guillotine arm right in your face. Sorry about that. I'm going to cut 2 inches, and then put aside my scrap. I may need that again. And then 1 inch. And then one of these pieces needs to be 4 1/4, because that is the length of my pocket. Once everything is folded and done, it is 4 1/4 inches. That's the, I'm out of frame. That's the dimension here. The other one I'm going to make at 4 inches. And I'll show you why in just a moment, but I'm going to take this other piece and I'm going to make it at 4 inches. And that's done with the paper trimmer. Okay, now I'm going to score. And because, sorry about that, I dropped it. And because these are 1-inch pieces, I'm going to score them at 1/2 inch. And the way I do it when I've got a little strip like this, this is my personal preference. It doesn't have to be done this way by any means. But I hold at the bottom and I start up at the top and I score this way, and then I move it down and hang on to it, because otherwise I find that sometimes it'll wiggle. So they're scored at 1/2 inch. And again, with this side here, I'm going to score it at 1/2 inch. And now I'm done with the score. All right. Scored. I'm going to fold my scored line. Remember, it's the opposite, the hills and valleys business. If you score this way, you fold the opposite way. It makes it easier to fold what you've scored. Make sure it stays in the score line. All right. I've got a 4 1/4 inch piece, and I've got a 4 1/2 inch piece. No, wrong. I've got a 4-inch piece and a 4 1/4 inch piece, because my completed measurement on this particular pocket is 4 1/4 inches. Right. So I'm going to take the smaller piece first, the little piece. This is going to be my hinge or my flap. And I'm going to just put glue on one side. I'm not even going to use my little hinges that I normally use today. But I don't mean hinges, I mean clamps. But you certainly can. And I'm going to glue the bottom of my hinged piece to the side of my 6x6 piece. And I just want to do it like this. So you want to make sure that this, where it folds, where your crease is, that stands up. You don't want it below or underneath your paper. And again, I've got a little bit at top and a little bit at bottom. I could squish it down. I didn't make it perfectly even. But I don't want the hinge to get in the way of the edge of the pocket. So piece 1 is glued down. When you fold it like this, you can't see it. It's disappeared. But don't glue that piece down, because that's going to be your hinge. And then the second piece, I'm going to go in, and this one I'm going to notch at both ends. I'm going to fold it over and give it 1 notch, 2 notches. And that's just because this is going to glue the 2 sides of the pocket together to give me a little bit more tuck room in the top. And I want to make sure that these don't get in the way of whatever I pull in and out of my pocket. So then I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to put glue again on one side of my hinged piece. And this is, again, the longer hinged piece. Glue. And I'm going, the hinged piece has glue on it. I'm going to leave that one alone. And then I'm going to come in and match this up along the edge of my closure. Okay, I'm just going to make sure it's mostly lined up. Okay, right along the edge. Okay, and again, you can't see it once it's folded over and closed. And I'll squeeze that to make sure it's nice and tight. Now, I am going to close up my envelope. I need to make sure my hinge stays out. So I want to make sure my hinge is out and straight. This piece, however, my closure, I'm going to make sure is folded down because it's going to close like this. So there's your hinge, okay? You don't see this, but you get a little bit more room in your pocket. So a bit of glue here. Sorry, I'm trying to angle down so you can see where I'm gluing. A bit of glue here. And I just close that up and make sure they're even. And if I were going to clamp it, I would clamp it now. Notice I did not glue the bottom. If I were making a closed pocket, I would have glued the bottom before closing this. But I'm not making a glued pocket. Okay, it's done. It's mostly good to go. Now, I'm me, so I'm going to ink. And this is a good time to ink if you're going to do that, but you certainly don't have to. Okay, ink the edge there. This piece is going to be glued down to whatever you're putting it in, and you can put washi or pattern paper or whatever you want over to top of it, but the edge will show a little bit. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom pocket. I'm going to ink the edge on the front pocket and on the back pocket. I'm just going to give those quick ink. Then I am ready to glue these pieces down. And all I'm going to do on both of the front and the back is put glue on these two edges. Just a thin line of glue. It doesn't take much because you're not going to put a child or anything in there. At least I don't think so. So glue one. Oops. And glue two. And here I probably will use my clamps just because I've got 4 thicknesses of paper on there. And I want to make sure that it glues completely. And that is it. You are essentially done with your pocket. All you have to do now is decide where you want to put it. And you're good to go. So project done. Because I'm me, I have to show you a couple tips, but they'll be quick tips. First tip. When you're going to, so your end result is 3 pockets. You've got your hinge, and you've got your front pocket, your back pocket, well, maybe your back pocket, and your center pocket. And again, the reason we don't glue along the bottom is so that you can make this center piece as long as your journal is if you want. It's a great place for a bookmark or a longer writing strip or a tag or a flip. Maybe I could put a flat fabric flip right here. So that's why you don't glue that. So let's see. The first tip that I'm going to share with you is my scrap paper tip. Now, we know that this one is, I need a little more glue on there. That's bugging me. Sorry. See, this is why one of the reasons I like my clamps, because it makes sure I have a really good closure. When you're measuring here, you know it's going to be a 3-inch pocket. And well, you don't want it to be a full 3 inches because it'll be hard to get in and out. So I would do like 2 3/4 or 2 7/8 for this tag. And I know it's going to fit, but it's also going to stay. It's going to be snug enough that it'll stay put. It's not going to fall out while I'm working it. But these pockets, you don't know exactly how far apart your glue is and exactly how wide the pocket is. So what I do with that is I'll take 2 scrap pieces and I'll tuck it up next into the pocket, up to the edge, but not super tight. Just kind of tuck it up to the edge. And then I'll take another scrap piece and I'll do the same thing. I want it in there, but I don't want it super tight. Then I just put a little bit of glue in the middle. I hold it until it dries for a moment. And when I take it out, I can measure it with my ruler correctly. And this is almost perfectly 2.5. So I know if I cut whatever piece I'm going to put in that pocket to 2.5 inches, it's going to fit snugly without having a lot of room on either side. So that's tip number 1. Great way to use up some scraps and to not have to trim and trim and trim. And oh, I trimmed too much. You know for sure what exactly is going to fit because, again, I don't measure my glue lines before I put the glue down. I just kind of put it down and pray for the best. The other tip. Oh, there were 2 tips. Darn it. Okay, so you know that when you're putting this in your book, whichever, let's see, here, I'll use my student book. Whatever book you're putting this in, right? If you're going to put it on the outside or you're going to put it on the inside, you you know you can glue this down, right? And it'll show right here, and you put glue and show. Well, you can use washi to hide that, and you run washi from the top. Oops, sorry, run washi from the top to bottom. But you could also use some stickers. This is just Mrs. Grossman's lace and sticker, and I don't even want to know what year. 2000. Yeah, that's what it says, 2000. So I've had this for a while, and I just used some antique linen or vintage photo ink and inked up the front because it was a off-white color. And I can use this lace, sticker lace, to hide my seam. So if I want this on my page, I just glue it right over the, can you see there? There you go. Glue it right over the top, so it kind of gives it a pretty vintagey feel. You can use regular lace or fabric or anything you want, but that's just another way to maybe use up some of the stickers you've got. So that was a tip. That was a tip. I had one more tip for you, darn it. What? So the measuring. Oh, I remember now. And I even put a slot up here to show you. Okay. Most of the time we use ribbon or lace or string in the pockets. And those are all great. But I don't know about you, but me and my album have chubby issues. And I make the darn thing fat so stinking fast that I can't put nearly as much in as I want. Well, you can also use your washi to make a pull tab. So I use the slot punch here just because I like the way it looked. I can use my washi to, well, maybe I can use my washi. Oh, okay, maybe I can't use my washi. Oh, there we go. Use your washi to make a pull tab. So just tear off a bit. Tuck it through. And line it up. And fold it closed. And then you can just tear off the extra at the top or whatever. And it's kind of a simple little thing. And you can do it with these little itty bitty guys, the ones that go down in here too. And there's no thickness at all to it. And, you know, on the top one, I might use a bit of lace, but maybe on the one down here, I can just use washi. So there you go. There's my third tip. I hope this helped. I hope you have fun creating, and I wish you and yours a very blessed Easter. Take care now. Bye.